Alright, so we're on day number 2 with this little project here. So figured out some stuff late last night, and it turns out that, for one, this connector, it's kind of hard to see, but this connector here that goes into the side of the screen from the new Android unit, it's real hard to push in properly with that cage on. So I had to take that metal cage back off that it was encased in so I could get a better angle for pushing it in, and that made the factory screen start working properly again. And then once I got that sorted out, the Android screen wasn't working, so I realized that there was one connector that I forgot to plug in. So basically the way they labeled everything was kind of not that intuitive. So one of them was labeled as Navi, which to me, and after installing for over 10-15 years, Navi always meant navigation, but I wasn't intending to use the factory navigation, so I was just gonna use the Waze and the Google Maps on my phone. So I figured, since I'm not using the navigation from the Android unit, I don't have to plug it in. Wrong. So Navi is some short form for their other control box, so it connects them together. So I figured that out, and then once I got that all plugged in, of course there's a truck passing. Once I got that all plugged in, then the screen came up for the Android and all that. But then the next problem was, in order for the CarPlay to work, the dongle that comes with the kit needs its own software, so then you have to go into Google Play Store and all this stuff and download that. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna leave that until today. So I'm gonna try to get that downloaded, see if I can get the CarPlay working. One thing I did notice about this system is the touchscreen kind of sucks. You have to press it really hard for it to work. But I did see those comments online about it, so I wasn't shocked, but didn't think it would be that bad. But whatever, it's not a big deal. I don't plan to be using the touch screen that much anyways. I just wanted to be able to have CarPlay so I could play everything off my phone and charge my phone. So as long as that's working, that's all I really care about. But apparently if you adjust the screen properly, it's more responsive. So I'm gonna have to play around with the adjustments of the screen parameters and see if I can get it to work better. So I should wrap up everything today now that I got all of the bugs and errors out of the way. But again, that's why you have to look at everything 2 or 3 times and kind of go back over what you did to see if you might have missed something. In this case, I missed one plug on the unit that made the Android part not work, and then the connector wasn't pushed far enough in for the factory screen to work properly. That's why it was doing all that jumping around. So got that all figured out last night. So yeah, I'm gonna proceed through and then hopefully get this thing wrapped up in a couple more hours. If I had to do this again, knowing what I know, it would probably take me, I don't know, 5 hours max, I would say. So again, if this is something you ever plan on taking on in your Maserati or any kind of similar vehicle where you have to take the screen out and all that stuff, plan for it to take a couple of days, because the learning curve is pretty steep. Anyways, let me get back to work and then I'll update on the progress. Alright, so finally got the CarPlay working. As you can see, text messages, all that stuff. So that's cool. Now there's another problem. I don't know if you can hear that buzzing in the background, but the auxiliary input of the factory radio sounds horrible. It sounds like something's damaged or not connected, because it's crackling and stuff, and it's not the cord, because I can unplug the cord. Just once you switch it to auxiliary, you hear all this noise. I don't know if you can hear it. You hear all this noise, and it's as if the audio connection for the auxiliary is not good or something. So I went through all this trouble to put in the CarPlay, and the auxiliary sounds like shit. So now I have to either figure out how to fix the auxiliary on the factory radio, or do I just go full crazy and just take out all this audio and put in all aftermarket, new amps, new speakers, everything, and run digital directly out of this Android box into some sound processors, etc., and bypass this whole factory auxiliary. It's always something, man. It's always something. So, continuing the saga. This is the radio from the car in pieces. So what happened was, went online, tried to see if anybody else had the same problem. One person said they did, but nobody had a solution. So I decided to open up this whole unit to figure out if I could see any bad solder joints, or if it was really dusty or dirty, to see if maybe that was causing the bad sound. But it looks pretty clean and immaculate in here, so honestly don't know what else the problem could be. Why only the aux is humming and buzzing, even with nothing connected to it at all. Tried different cords, took out the whole auxiliary piece. All of this is perfect, so I think this might just be bad. And apparently this is $3,000. Just this face is like $1,000, so I'm gonna have to see what I can find.
One eternity later.
Okay guys, so literally 1 million years later, it is approximately a week since I first took the Maserati apart to put in this whole aftermarket deal with the touchscreen, and ran into a bunch of problems. So first problem was screen wasn't working properly. Tracked that down to a connector being loose, fixed that. Then the screen was working and the Apple CarPlay wasn't working properly, so tracked that down to having to find a new download for the dongle so that it would be recognized. Fix that. Then somewhere in between there, the battery for the car died because I didn't have enough charger, and the OEM Maserati tender wasn't charging it fast enough, so I had to use a second charger. So it sat for a day thinking it was charging, it didn't, so that was a day wasted. Then the actual day actually charging it, so that was 2 days wasted. Got that all sorted out. And then the factory auxiliary port, which is where the audio needs to feed into the system through, is not working. So what's happening is you don't get the right side of the audio, and the sound is very quiet and hollow like. I tracked that down for literally 3 or 4 days straight. So I took the switch apart, checked continuity between the RCA plugs and the output, checked the board, like right down to the circuit board, checked the board. I disassembled the entire radio and checked the board out, and it looked like it was fine. Still couldn't figure it out. So yeah, I just had some people coming through. So yeah, so I went down to the circuit boards and connectors, took the radio apart, everything looked clean and perfect. Not to say that that doesn't mean a component didn't fail on it, but I don't have the tools necessary to diagnose each circuit on the board. And what else did I do? Took the connector apart, checked the wiring harness for the auxiliary plug. A couple of the wires were missing, which is very odd for the right side. Tracked it back. That led to a dead end. So I got sick and tired of everything. So my last plan B for now, just so I can put my car back together and have decent sound coming out of the Apple CarPlay, was to get one of these things here. So this is let me unplug everything, still plugged in here. So this is just a simple FM modulator. I don't know if you guys have seen these things before. So you basically plug it into your lighter, and then you can put it to a radio station that's not used, and when you tune your radio to that station, you get the sound through. I tested it out, and the sound is actually pretty good. Surprisingly, I thought it was going to be crappy, but the sound is good enough that I'll let it roll for now. So I'm going to plug the auxiliary out of the Android system into here instead, and then use my radio to transmit the sound, since I couldn't figure out the auxiliary. So it's been super frustrating and taking a long time. Even to find the proper FM modulator took like a couple of days, because some places didn't have them, and then some of them were not what I was looking for, and then the proper cabling and everything. So it's been a long list of issues. And again, when you do DIY stuff, these are the things that sometimes happen. So I think worst case scenario happened here, which is fine because it gave me something to do, even though it was frustrating. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna put everything back together, run the cables for the aux and everything, and use it off of the FM radio. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call Maserati and see how much the auxiliary plug, the auxiliary port itself costs. Let me show it to you so you know what I'm talking about. In this car, you have to turn the car on to open the glove box. So it was supposed to work off of, come on, focus. This is the auxiliary port. So see, there's USB. I have it out. So USB works fine. Aux gets some sound, but it sounds very crappy. It lights up everything. But this plug right here can be replaced. So my only last thought is that maybe the actual auxiliary port itself is just bad. Like something on the circuit board, come on, focus. Something bad on the circuit board happened, and it's just a bad switch, period, even though the contacts are good. So I'm gonna put it all together, use it through the FM modulator for now, call Maserati, see how much it costs for a replacement auxiliary port, and if it can be refunded if I don't need it, so that I can just get a new one, plug it in, try it, see if it works. If it works, great, I'll keep it, and then rewire it the way I wanted to originally. And if it doesn't work, then I know it's more than likely something wrong with the actual radio in the car, the input for the aux on the radio, and that's not worth trying to fix or track down, because these radios apparently are like $1,000 or something. So I'm not doing that just for the auxiliary. So I'd rather take that $1,000 and put it towards building out a system how I'd really want to do it anyways, like full DSP, full aftermarket, replace all the speakers with high-end sound quality components, amplifiers, digital signal processing, the full deal. I'd rather go full-on audio rehaul than spend $1,000 on the factory system. Everything else works perfectly fine. USB, perfect. CD, perfect. The built-in hard drive jukebox, perfect. Everything else works perfect. It's just, of course, the auxiliary input that I need is just not working properly. So it is what it is. I found the workaround that still sounds pretty good. I'd say it sounds 80% as good as the USB plug-in, 75 to 80%. So it's not perfect, but it's good enough for just using my Apple CarPlay. If I have a need for super high quality, I can still put files on the USB and play it through the USB, no problem. So it's not worth continuing to fight with this thing for another week or so, or cut further into the car. It's just not worth it. The car is literally perfect. Everything I took apart, nobody's been in here before. All the wiring is perfect, so I'm not gonna risk messing up some other stuff trying to track down this issue. So that's where we're at with it. So now is the day I'm gonna put it all back together. As you can see, screen is out, whole thing is disassembled, radio's out, and everything looks like a mess because I had everything perfectly in here, and then when it wasn't working I had to start unplugging things one by one and trying to troubleshoot what the problem was. So now I have to clean this all back up and tuck it up all neatly and put it away. So that's what I'm gonna do now, and then hopefully that'll be it, and I can get back on the road with my car because it's been over a week now. So see you on the other side of this. All right, so I'm gonna do one last test before I put this whole thing back together. So turn the car on. That's the radio. And if I hold down my call button, switches my screen over. Loads up the Android Auto business. Takes a second. And there we go. Touchscreen works. So now let me plug my phone in. And I have on my XM app. I don't know if you can see that. And there we go. Apple CarPlay. Let me hit play, see if I get anything. Alright, so seems to be working. I don't know why I can't see the screen. Let's see. There we go. Sorry, so as you can see, there's the XM app, Waze, text message. So all good. If I want to go back to the regular radio, just hold down the button and it switches back. So we're good. Just gonna put it back together and hope it still works once it's together. So finally got everything all plugged in and up and going. So when you first turn on the car, you have the regular Maserati screen. It's not touch screen. Hold down this button and it switches over to Apple CarPlay. Let me play some J.O. Mairs. So you have your Apple CarPlay stuff. You have Spotify, Waze, Messages, Google Maps, all of this stuff. And then when you want to go back to the regular Maserati system, just hold that and it goes back. And that's it. So guys, this one was a real pain in the ass, but that's what you get messing with these cars. Still have a couple of problems. When the battery died, it might have reset some stuff in the computer because the trunk is motorized and that won't close. Also, the door locks aren't working, and let me step back out. The door locks aren't working and the motorized part of the door isn't working, where you hit the switch and it opens it. So, and I have a couple of errors in the dash, but again, it's related to TPMS and stuff like that. So the battery did die, so I have it on the charger, so I'm gonna let it charge overnight without messing with it, start it up tomorrow and see if some stuff sorts itself out or fixes itself. So always something when you mess with these cars. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so this is everything back in. See, that's the regular Maserati screen there. Hold down this call button switches over to Android, and if I plug in my phone, I have my cable running right here through the ashtray. If I plug in my phone, then we should get the Apple CarPlay loading on the screen. And there you have it, CarPlay. So this is my Spotify daily mix. I'll just press something. Actually, so I don't get any copyright, let me put on some Kemi, some J.O. Mairs. Let's go to albums, artists. He should be in here. There we go. Hit up the boy J.O. Mairs. He's the one that does all the beats for all of my videos. So just shuffle play it real quick. We don't wait, don't complain, no excuses. We just gotta handle the game. And there you have it, Waze, touchscreen. Waze is there. All of the rest of my stuff is here. And then whenever I want to switch back to the regular Maserati screen, just hold this button down and it switches back. So everything here is still workable. Radio still works, CD still works, USB still works. Oh, no copyright. USB still works. So yeah, that's it. I have it set up right now because my auxiliary is broken in my car. I have it set up to run through this FM transmitter. So that's it, all together and done. And I also added a backup camera, so when you put the car in reverse, it automatically switches the screen over. So I added a backup camera as well. And yeah, so that concludes all of that. I finished it a couple of days ago, but I forgot to finish up the video. I had shot the video over so many different days because of all of the problems I ran into that I wasn't too sure what I shot from what I didn't. But I think I pretty much got everything. I did a battery change because there's so much stuff that happened during the course of doing this. Right now the sound is kind of shitty through the FM transmitter because of feedback. So I'm actually thinking of planning out a full system, like full redo of the system to get even better sound than it had before. So stay tuned for that if I decide to go that route. But yeah, that's it. Added touchscreen Apple CarPlay to a Maserati.